Levi Off Teleinstructor, Margaret McGee Liberal Arts Advanced Seminar May 11, 2015. Individualism, the construct of one and possibilities of state beyond self. The one real calamity, the one fatal flaw which can afflict a human group and prevent it from achieving fulfillment is to be alone. Levi Strauss, Claude. Race, History and Culture. Personal statement. I want to start by stating that I do believe in a lie. I believe we are all original. I believe in the potential of that originality. It is a quality that can prove to be our greatest asset in order to create and foster a strong, productive, more confident society. However, I do not believe any system is capable of concurrent operation while that nation is built solely on the principle that one's singular values are of more importance than another's. For a culture to coexist while functioning at its full individual potential, its members must at a minimum consider the needs and opinions of others. I myself am a nihilist. I refuse to provide broad explanations as to how this theology ought to be defined, and I practice a stern policy to deny any literature on the matter for fear of quoting it. For me, though, this belief is a feeling of validity in the viewpoints and ideologies of all things. Though even I with my convicted affinity toward personal freedoms and identifications lay victim to the constraints of vain egoism. When I am denied, I hurt. When I am misunderstood, I'm confused. If alone, I'm lonely. Only through this misdirection can the byproducts of human strain foster, and because of this suffering we are able to land within the unfortunate cycle that eventually leads us into the true pursuit of our lives. In time the reality reveals itself. Without disorder we have no value. A brief U.S. history. We came to find new beginnings but sought only gold, land, and dominance. In the name of racial superiority we brought our individual wars to a Newfoundland and established our independence on the backs of predecessors and foreigners. The self-identification of most Americans is conceptualized at the beginning when ships landed on shore in the Americas ending Christopher Columbus's 1492 voyage. The original intentions of this journey's 4 excursions were to establish trade routes for the Spanish Empire, but instead resulted in the destruction and control of numerous native cultures that were otherwise unspoiled by the hand of the civilized West. Through his vain hunger for fame and power, Columbus strained his relationship with the Spanish crown and appointed colonial administrators in America, which inevitably led to his arrest under charges of genocide and the dismissal of his position as governor on the island settlements of Hispaniola in 1500. Amongst the Spanish subjugation of native cultures between South America and the southwestern portion of North America, English colonists arrived as early as 1585 to the northeastern coast of the modern-day United States. Most colonists left their former countries in hopes to escape oppression, now discovered purpose and new hardships. Under the popular romantic nationalist muse of manifest destiny, the English came with more conquest and slavery during this era. Land disputes carried out by war and the subdual of nations of native societies were rampant. After 1 year of war with their counterparts, the colonists declared independence from British Parliament on July 4, 1776. Within 7 years the Patriots won the war through the financial support of France. As a result of these years of horror and turmoil, the adaptation of a new governmental system arose, democracy. And though practiced during this era yet unnamed by the Iroquois Confederacy, 1450-1600, the U.S. Constitution was drafted under its influence and since has been practiced, unchanged, since its outline in 1789. A psychological view. Psychology, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, literally translates to the study of the mind. Regardless as to what branch of the practice we narrow the study into, this remains to be the fact. Whether it is the self in relation to the group or the group in relation to the self, it is the individual that precedes the condition. Psychoanalysis tries to uncover the cause of individual psychic phenomena by examining free associations through thought and dream analysis. Its prime founder is Sigmund Freud. Though most of his theories have been expanded upon and therefore discounted, the old man's methodologies remain to be the stern foundation to psychology at large today. In an instance after Freud's father died, he saw Sophocles' play, Oedipus Rex. The production affected him so deeply that he felt personally driven to develop a theory based on the production. He labeled it the Oedipus complex. The basis of this theoretical viewpoint states that the male model's unconscious mind desires to kill their father figure as an attempt to break away from his social control. In turn, his internal libido longs for sexual intimacy with the mother figure. This philosophy continues insisting that in order for one to truly enter society and establish their self as an individual, they must first accept the father's law and separate reasonably from physical attachment to the mother. Friend and partner Carl Jung counter-proposed that females experienced a very similar desire for the father figure and aggression towards mother through what he described as the Electra complex. Consequences of improper resolution through this developmental phase have been known to result in extreme vanity of the individual ego and emotional misappropriation. However, what Freud vainly ignored in Sophocles' play is that the episode begins with parental abandonment, not passion, nor patricide, or an incestuous union between the son and mother Xia. And the son with supposedly lustful wishes and murderous impulses actually tries, though unsuccessfully, to protect his parents and avoid the very fate Freud attributed to him. What the play, and thus in an essence the theory, implies is that the source of individual desire can be sourced back to our development and not solely in our nature. It can then be said that it is thus through the maladjustment in our developmental base understanding of these sources that create the vain ego in the individual. Often described as the French Sigmund Freud, Jacques Lacan elaborated psychology's view of the Oedipal stage in human development. Motivated by the works of Claude Lévi-Strauss, he focused his attention developing his symbolic order, defined as the linguistic dimension of the symbolic, the deception found in imagination and or images of the imaginary, and the impossible realxies, all of which are influenced by one's surrounding culture but interpreted through the individual ego. During the Oedipal stage of human development, a child learns to resist or lean toward a directional life pattern based on their interpreted experience of the symbolic representation of a parent, versus the imagined depiction. They revolve around the caregiver, versus the desired reality of the situation. For Lacan, it is the task of symbolism to forbid imaginary capture, meaning that symbolism is meant to guide our reasoning. Though signifiers, such as words, are not guided by reason. They have no positive existence, but are determined by the quality of their mutual differences. It is only by consensus that we agree that one symbol appropriately represents an object within reality. Thus, it is the human group and the attachment to said group by the individual that determines one's interpreted importance of the signifier. Lacan's first, and perhaps most appreciated contribution to psychoanalysis is his classification of the mirror stage. During this phase of development in an individual's growth, they establish a formative understanding of the I and a realization of the conflictual nature of the dual relationship with the big other, e.g. one's parents. All people while they are infants at 6 months of age are able to self-recognize in a mirror. During this experience we encounter alienation within due to the conflict between subject and image. This occurs before we attain bodily control and physical coordination, which gives way to an aggressive strain resulting in the formation of the ego by means of objectification through the identification with one's perception of self and their emotional response to said tension. According to Lacan, the child will often look to mother, the parent exposing them to their image as comparison to bodily mastery, The supremacy of the mother may result in a depressive reaction to the resulting jubilation of self-engagement. As the self becomes ever more participatory in social life, the mirror stage semi-disengages from the interpretation of identity via literal self-recognition and engages much more toward the imaginary real as perceived expectations through family, peers, and society invade the ego and replace the mirror. A religious view. The Western world's most dominant religious paradigm lies in the faiths of Christianitixis. It is fitting for a primarily individualistic society to practice devoutly unto the terms of monotheistic belief system, while maintaining a mentality based on notion of a singular God and systematically editing dogma to fit one's own desires. It has been shown to create extreme focus on the individual ego. In the form of holy wars, religious patrons agree on the history or interpretation of doctrine and/or separate doctrines. This attention on the opulent self-aggrandized omnipotence of singularity produces possible delusions of grandeur in human groups, leading to social dissidence and political upheaval. We cannot move forward without adding that polytheistic cultures do not endure similar side effects. Proof of this negative association can be observed in the recent Muslim genocide at Myanmar, otherwise known as Burma. Fueled by a Buddhist anti-Muslim political movements and a group of ultra-nationalistic monks, these events dissuade the stereotype of the peace-loving Buddhist. Further polytheistic dissent can be seen in the long-existing Indo-Pakistani wars and conflicts. Drawing back as far as 1947 XXI, when the partition of India came about in the aftermath of World War II, as both Great Britain and British India were within the midst of economic crisis due to the war. It was the intention of those who wished for a Muslim state to come from British India to newly formed Pakistan and Hindustan. However, a clean division did not occur between religious lines, and nearly one-third of the Muslim population of British India remained in India. Violence soon followed between Hindus, Sikhs and Muslims, resulting in 500,000 to 1 million casualties between the sects. Reanalysis.